Hey guys, my daughters have a late start today, so I'm sorry that I'm missing again, but I will be back tomorrow. So, the first thing we're going to look at is the independent reading log. I'm going to change the dates that the checkpoints are due because of our little snow days this week. So, we're going to move each checkpoint back a week. Checkpoint 1 will be due um, January 26th, so you can change that. 33% of your book will be due on January 26th. The second checkpoint will be due February 2nd. That will be 66% of your book. And then the third checkpoint will be February 9th. All of your book should be read by that date. So again, checkpoint 1 will be January 26th. Checkpoint 2 will be February 2nd. Checkpoint 3 will be February 9th. And then the summative will be due February 16th. If you can choose a book and get your reading log completed, I will check those off tomorrow first thing. So just pick a book, fill out your reading log, including the number of pages due at each of the checkpoints, and then I will approve those tomorrow. Make sure you glue in the reading log and the WOW sheet. We will start with the WOW sheet tomorrow, and we obviously won't have the quiz tomorrow, but we'll start with that tomorrow. Um, Make sure that the book that you choose is a genre that you have not read before. So refer back to that pink sheet at the front of your notebook that we glued in at the very beginning of the school year. Okay, so fill out your log. I'll check those tomorrow. Next thing, whoever is covering the class should have passed out your CDAs, and I want to look at those. So take those out and something to write with so that you can mark the correct answers and um, jot down any notes or any questions that you have for me. I'll answer those tomorrow when I get back. So the first 10 questions are just matching the character to the quote that they said. Number 1 is, of course, F. Tybalt. That quote is also listed on number 13 on your test. Number 2 is H. Lord Montague. This is when they are talking about where Romeo has been, and Lord Montague, his father, says he's sitting outside crying all the time over Rosaline. Number 3 is Juliet. She says this once she learns that Romeo is a Montague. Number 4 is G, Prince Aeschylus. He is the one that warns that if they fight, the Capulets and the Montagues fight again, the punishment will be death. Number 5 is A, Romeo. Benvolio and Mercutio ask, no, this is the friar, asking if he spent all night with Rosaline, and Romeo says no, he's forgotten her, and he loves someone else now. Number 6 is C, Benvolio. C, this is when the servant who cannot read shares the list of partygoers with Romeo, Benvolio, and Mercutio, and Benvolio says we should go because Rosaline will be there and you will get to see her. Number 7 is J, Lady Capulet. This is when Lady Capulet and the nurse and Juliet are talking about Juliet getting married, and her mother says, "I was a mother before by your age, and you're still not even married." Number 8 is E, the nurse. Number 9 is I, Lord Capulet. This is when He's talking to the Count Paris and says we should wait 2 more years because she is only 13. And then number 10 is Mercutio. He is the one that goes on the Queen Mab monologue. All right, so let me go over those again really quickly. Number 1 is F, 2 is H, 3 is B, 4 is G, 5 is A, 6 is C, 7 J, 8 E, 9 I, 10 D. Okay, number 11 asks, how does Shakespeare use dramatic irony in these selections to create tension for his audience? So these two quotes go together. That was one issue that I saw. Some students explained why or how Shakespeare uses dramatic irony in the quote on the left, and then how he uses dramatic irony on the right. I wanted you to explain how he uses those together to create tension. So in the first quote from the chorus. This is the prologue when the chorus tells us, from forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parent strife. When we went over the prologue and did a close read, we explained that the chorus tells the audience before the play starts that the the feud between the families ends when Romeo and Juliet die. So we, the audience, know this before the play even begins. Okay? The characters in the play do not know that, but we, the audience, do know that. Over here, Romeo is asking the friar if he will marry uh, Romeo and Juliet, and Friar says, in one respect I'll thy assistant be, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love. So Friar is agreeing to marry Romeo and Juliet because he thinks their marriage will end the feud. But we, the audience, know that that is not what will end the feud. So this creates tension because now we start to see how these things fall into place to eventually lead to their death. So your answer should say something like, Shakespeare uses dramatic irony to tell the audience before the play begins that Romeo and Juliet's death will end the family's feud, but Friar agrees to marry the two because he thinks their wedding, their marriage, will end the feud. However, the audience knows that this is not what ends the feud, and this creates tension for the audience. All right, number 12. How does Shakespeare use figurative language in this selection to illustrate Romeo's feelings toward Juliet? So in this selection, we have Romeo creeping on Juliet, and she's like over on the balcony, and he's on the other side of the stage and just narrating his thoughts. And he says, the light breaks through her window, meaning it's going through, it doesn't literally break the window. It is the east, okay, so her room is the east, and Juliet is the sun. So what he's saying is that he sees Juliet appear in her room, and he calls her the fair sun and kill the envious moon, meaning the moon should go away when the sun comes up, and the moon is already sick and pale with grief, that thou her maid art far more fair than she. So her maid would be Juliet. She is more fair than the sun. So your answer should say something like, Shakespeare has Romeo compare Juliet to the sun, or uses a metaphor to describe Juliet as the sun to show that Romeo finds her very beautiful, or is in love with her, or likes her, something in the realm of a positive connotation. Number 13, what do these lines of dialogue reveal about Tybalt's feelings about the Montagues? So his language here is very negative. So you could say something like, he hates them, he wants to kill them, he um, is very hot-headed, something obviously negative. On to thesis statements. So the prompt is, read the information in the box below. Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. Neil Gaiman said this in his book Coraline. Belief in oneself can lead to success in the future. Think carefully about this statement. Write an essay explaining why it is important to overcome difficulty in the face of diversity. Be sure to clearly state your thesis, organize and develop your ideas effectively, choose your words carefully, edit your writing for grammar, mechanics, and spelling. Number 14 is underline the part of the prompt you would actually respond to in your hypothetical essay. That is always right here, whatever comes after the write an essay explaining. Okay, so you should have underlined either that whole sentence or at least this part. Okay, this right here is not the prompt. This is for something for you to think carefully about. But the actual prompt that you're responding to is right here, just like we practiced last week, the week before. Okay, so take the prompt and turn it into a driving question. So your driving question should be simply, why is it important to overcome difficulty in the face of diversity? So because they've given us this word right here, why, and not whether, the question is not, is it important to overcome difficulty? It's why is it? They've already given you the position, okay? So you don't get to choose if it's important or not. They are telling you to explain why it is. Number 16, what is the topic? Overcoming difficulty in the face of diversity simply is the prompt. Make a declaration, so take a position. This is just the position, and they have given it to you. So it is important to overcome difficulty in the face of diversity. All right? Make a declaration. You do not have to list your supporting reasons right here. That's what the next part is for. So your 3 supporting reasons. These need to be concrete ideas that support why it is important to overcome difficulty in the face of diversity. So some of you guys said things like, it builds character, it creates maturity, it prepares people for the future, anything like that. Those are concrete things. Okay, you don't have to include examples. That's what the body paragraphs are for. Remember that your thesis statement is a preview of what your paper is going to be about. You don't need to explain it all in your thesis, or there's no reason to even have body paragraphs. And then combine the previous steps and polish your final thesis statement. An issue that I saw several students have is using second person pronouns, you and your, or first person pronouns, I, me, my, we. Okay? Remember that you are using objective third person pronouns like people, humanity, students, children, kids. Okay? So all you're doing is taking number 17. It is important to overcome difficulty in the face of diversity because, and then you condense your 3 reasons here. So it's a short sentence with your position and your 3 supporting details. Okay, and that is everything for your test. So if you have questions about any of those, and you do not understand why you got one of those questions wrong, put a little star next to it, and I will ask if you guys have any questions tomorrow, or you can come see me during tutorials after school today, because I will be here by 3rd period, or come in during lunch. Okay, so today is, or tomorrow, really, Thursday the 18th. The Renaissance Fair is on the 30th, which is in a little less than 2 weeks. So you guys brainstormed supplies that you needed in a document that you submitted to Haiku before Christmas break. So right now, I want you to take out that document and I want you to start planning what you need to do to be ready for the Renaissance Fair and come up with any questions that you have. I will address those first thing tomorrow, and then you will have more design time tomorrow. So that is what you need to complete today.